Okay, guys, we have a little bit of a follow-up. You see, I wasn't the only one who talked to Ryan Mullins, right? Danny, as we all know from Danny Phil Talk, has also talked to Ryan Mullins. Let's get into it.
Hey, Tom Rabbit! I hope you got this for your recording. Hey, YouTube out there. Tom Rabbit likes to record these. Hey, Tom Rabbit!
Well, okay, so which brings us to, what do you think of like the kind of the specific Levantillian Bonson form of presup? What are your thoughts on that?
I can't understand what Van Til's up to, and I've not read him in a long time, so it's difficult for me to competently say.
He has read him. He hasn't read him in a long time. And when he did read him, he didn't know what he was up to.
What he's up to. But a lot of presups that I see going back to when I was much younger as well into today, what I see them doing is going, my worldview just is coherent without question. And you can't know anything at all apart from Jesus Christ. And I'm like, I feel like when my mom was teaching first grade and second grade, like she taught them 2 + 2 = 4, and they knew that, and their beliefs about Jesus didn't really fit into the picture. Whether or not they had thought Jesus was, who knows what they thought about Jesus because they're little kids. I feel like that's just completely like a separate issue. Like I don't see how these things connect. What I see from a lot of popular presuppositionalists is this attitude of, you give me some sort of claim, it doesn't matter what, and then I go, by what standard? How do you know that? And somehow me just asking that question is a methodology.
Is a methodology? Question mark?
And I don't see that as a methodology. I just see this as a sometimes interesting question, and then sometimes a question that seems out of place right now. Like, how do I know 2 + 2 = 4? I just do. Like, how do I know that the Earth is round? Well, because.
Do you guys think that Darth Dawkins would accept this answer from any atheist? How many times has he said, "Why is the sky blue?" And they say something, "It just is, I don't know," and he says no. He won't accept it, right? He won't accept it. He won't accept it.
Some evidence, like it depends on the thing, and the answer is not going to be because Jesus Christ is Lord or something. Like I feel like that's a weird leap to get there.
What's that, Ryan? What's that, Ryan?
I feel like that's a weird leap to get there. Jesus Christ is Lord or something. Like I feel like that's a weird leap to get there.
Yeah, so there's like the argument, and we can there's like the tag format, or a transcendental argument, whatever that is in the first place, and then how they might defend the premises. There's that, and we can be critical of that, which I am. I don't think any of it works. But then there's the strategy, which is, I'm on the other side of the aisle here. I'm like, since I'm an atheist and I talk to Christians often, it's this tactic where this notion of transcendental, which might amount to like logic, intelligibility, moral values, etc. The reliability of your sense perception, the whole list of stuff. And what I notice happens is that they ask you how you account for these things, epistemologically, how you account for these things. And the hope is that they give some stupid answer, or they're unable to, or they just say, I don't know how to ground those things. And then they take a W from that. And as like that has anything to do with justifying the premises that they laid out in the argument or any of defense of them.
Yeah.
Right. And
Okay. This is exactly what Darth does. Not only will he think he got a W, he'll say things like, "Game over, lights out," and he'll start to do his little crotch chop or whatever he's doing. Ryan Mullins is laughing at this behavior. Let's watch it again.
That, and as like that has anything to do with...
He's laughing at you, Darth.
Justifying the premises that they laid out in the argument or any of defense of them.
Yeah.
And he says, yeah.
Right. And it's just this horrible tactic because the questions they ask are questions that I can barely answer. Right. Like they literally go through Bertrand Russell's 10 the problems of philosophy, and they ask each question and then expect you to have answers when not, even the most some of the greatest philosophers of all time are unsettled by some of those questions. So I think it's actually, I don't want to say it's intrinsically disingenuous, but it should be you should realize if you're running this argument, like that particular strategy of interaction, I think that I think you need to be reformed. What do you think?
I think that's right, because when I was in my doing my PhD, I remember one of my office mates asking me, "What do you think of like Bonson and presuppositionalism?" And I was like, "That's still a thing?" And this would have been like 2010, and so I was shocked that this still was a thing at that point. And so now here we are in 2024, and I'm still shocked that this is a thing. And so I was asking, like, "Get me up to speed. What's going on?" And it was exactly
Okay, the way he just said that, obviously, when he's saying he's surprised it's still a thing, it's kind of the same way you or I would when we first learned about there's actually flat earthers on the internet, right? The reason we're surprised that it's still a thing is because it's so dumb.
the sort of stuff you're describing, where I just ask these big questions, and I'm like, "Yeah, those are all the questions I am deeply interested in answering." But do I have good answers to them? Of course not. Like I'm trying to figure it out, and so I don't see it as if I stump someone, because I'm like, how does like mathematics all hang together? And I'm like, that's a really difficult question. And if I don't have an answer, that's not an automatic win for theism. As far as
No, Ryan. If you don't have an answer, it's game over, lights out, right?
I can tell, I feel like I've got a lot more legwork to do to get the win for theism on that.
The only appreciation I have for presups really is kind of the same. Like what a flat Earth. If you ever talk to someone that believes in flat Earth, most people are not really prepared to defend the globe Earth, right? Like and so when a flat Earth is asking you questions, then you're like, oh my gosh, like maybe I should know more about why I think the Earth is round. I mean, like, so yeah, they're asking really heavy questions, like, and so. It pushes me to like go and try to figure some of these problems out. But as far as an apologetic, I think it's absolutely the wrong way to go. And I think it's.
Ooh, Darth, that's got a sting. Let's listen to that one again.
Some of these problems out. But as far as an apologetic, I think it's absolutely the wrong way to go. And I think it's absolutely the wrong way to go. And I think it's.
Do you know why he's saying and agreeing that it's absolutely the wrong way to go? Because he thinks it's trash. That's why.
Usually terribly ineffective. But
nodding. He's nodding that it's ineffective. He's nodding that it's not the way to go. He's smiling and laughing at it.
But it seems like we agree on that, and that's good to hear.
Nodding in agreement. He agrees.
Which brings us to what do you think about young Earth creationism?
This is not related, but let's go ahead and listen to this really quickly. A little bit of extra content.
It was a view I held when I was a teenager, because my biology teacher at the Christian school I went to was very hell-bent, that's the right word for it, very hell-bent on young Earth creationism. And then I discovered later the Bible teachers were not hell-bent on this because they studied stuff. I don't know. I don't want to say anything mean, so I'll stop right there. Anyways.
And here we can see that, Ryan is trying to be diplomatic, right? He's tempering his language. That doesn't mean he doesn't think these views are trash. He obviously thinks these views are trash. He just won't say it that way.
So as I went on into like my college education, I started learning about a lot of different options that Christians have and the different debates and the history of these debates, and started to realize, oh, young Earth creationism is not the only option. It really isn't. And there's really good arguments for thinking that we do not have to affirm that as we're reading scripture. And so that's the view I affirm now, is that young Earth creationism is false. The scientific evidence, I think, is quite good for a very, very old universe. Well, okay. I mean, relative to other things, I guess. I mean, 13 billion years.
Don't tell Darth that, right?
Give or take a billion. That feels old to me, but it's definitely older than, 6,000, 8,000, 10,000 years. And there's a weird history to young Earth creationism being very popular in America, where it's not popular in other parts of the Christian world. And part of that has to do with some weird things that were happening in the 1960s and 1970s in America. So there's this whole sociological history of what's going on there too, of why young Earth creationism is so popular and presented as if it's the only option in America, whereas most other places it was never really considered as the only option. It's not been that popular of a view throughout Christian history.
Yeah, okay, so not a fan is what I'm.
That's the short answer. Yeah.
Not a fan.
He doesn't think the tag argument's like a good
He
argument.
told you this?
Like, well, like he said.
Did he tell you this?